Welcome to the continuation of our virtual prostep ivip Symposium 2020 and our web seminar series, which will run until the 15th of October. My name is Nora Tazir and I'm the Technical Program Manager of prostep ivip. I will guide you through the upcoming web seminar. All web seminars, as well as the presentations from our virtual prostep ivip Symposium, are available or will be available on our YouTube channel, Prostep ivip Association. At this point, I would also like to thank all our sponsors to make this possible. Today's web seminar covers the topic, the application of digital twins. What is the current state of industry? But first, let me give you a brief introduction to prostep ivip. Prostep ivip is a registered association founded in 1993 and based in Darmstadt. We count around about 180 international companies and organizations as our members. We have committed ourselves to developing modern standards for product data management and virtual product creation. The solutions we provide directly address the challenges that manufacturers and suppliers are facing in these fields. Before starting with today's topic, let me give you some organizational information. The presentation and the sound are available via Microsoft Teams. If you have problems with the sound, you can dial in by phone using the conference ID. To find your local dial-in number, just follow the link given in the Outlook invitation you received. One important action we ask you to take during this web seminar is to please mute your microphone. You can, of course, give us your feedback or address questions to the presenters. For this, simply use the chat section of this Teams session. The questions will be answered at the end of the web seminar. Today's session is scheduled to last for 45 to 60 minutes. And details on our program are given on our website. Now, let's come to today's presenters. I welcome you heartily and thank you already for your presentation. Ms. Theresa Riedelsheimer. Theresa is the Deputy Head of the Department Information and Process Control in the Division of Virtual Product Creation at Fraunhofer IPK in Berlin. Her research activities focus on the challenges in product lifecycle management, digital twins, and on the specific topic of sustainability in this context. Within the study on digital twins, she is responsible for the scientific planning and execution of the digital twin readiness assessment, as well as the authoring of the study. Welcome to Mr. David Salomon. David is a senior business consultant at the IT and service provider MSG in Munich. He is a thought leader for digital twins within the automotive division. He triggered the idea of the maturity assessment and contributed to design and conception of the study, as well as to the client interview conduction. And last but not least, welcome Mr. Marcos Samarajiva. Marcos is a lead business consultant also at MSG in Munich. Together with David, he is responsible for the digital twin in the automotive division. He developed the idea for the study and provided important impulses for the concept and design. All three of them, they will give a glance at the results of a cross-industry study on where companies stand in the development and implementation of digital twins, their influence on business models and current concepts. Let's get started. Marcos, please.
Nora, thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Also on our behalf, welcome to this e-session on the application of digital twins. What are we going to present this afternoon? So, during the last 18 months, this team has conducted a study around digital twins and application in processing industry. And we have published our results in a study recently and are going to present the results to you. You are actually the first audience to hear the results on this study here in the prostep ivip. What can you expect this afternoon for the session? We have got a part on what motivated us to do the study and how to come up with the digital twin readiness assessment. Then, of course, we are going to present the main results and findings of the study to you, which is going to be presented to you by Teresa. We are going to do an outlook and give you the conclusions we found during the study and want to share this with you, which is going to present it to you by David. And then we should be 45 minutes into the session with 15 minutes left. Regarding the questions and answers we are going to share or discuss with you. Well, unfortunately, we have a corona situation and this is virtual, so we can't meet in person as it used to be during the prostep seminar. We can't discuss matters with you or share the answer your questions. However, please do not hesitate to approach us in the aftermath of the session. We have got the contact details, which Teresa will show on the next slide, already prepared for you. If you scan the QR codes on this slide, you will get the contact information directly into your address book on your smartphone. So we'll make it easy for you to get in contact with us. Right. So before we start into the session and talk about the digital twin,
Sorry,
I would like...
My colleague is waiting in the waiting room. Mr. Seal, could you please leave him?
I'm accepting everybody.
Ah, okay.
I can't see him in the waiting room.
Roland Rosen.
No.
No?
I'm in the call, it's fine.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Thanks, Roland. Thanks, Nora.
Thank you. Sorry.
No issue. So most of you will know us probably, MSG. We are a medium-sized company based north of Munich in Ismaning. We are 8,000 employees, skipped 1 billion revenue by 2019 and are rated number 6 amongst the IT and consulting and system integration companies in Germany. This year we celebrated, or actually rather wanted to celebrate our 40th birthday, but the Corona story prevented us from actually having a big party. So Teresa, would you please take over for the introduction of IPK?
Yes, definitely. Also, thank you very much for the introduction and welcome from my side. I'm sitting in Berlin actually at the moment. Just really quick, I'm from the Fraunhofer Institute for Production Systems and Design Technology. And we focus on different research areas and especially do application-oriented research, focusing, for example, on product development methods and processes, the product design and functional validation. Also, one topic is the intuitive interaction with virtual prototypes, information management for product creation, as well as the digital manufacturing operations and factory processes. And our division is the virtual product creation. Just really quick to talk about our institute. Thank you, Markus.
Thank you, Teresa. So now coming to the next part, to the motivation. What made us conduct a study for 18 months and come up with a digital twin readiness assessment? Actually, the first idea came up during client workshops on digital twins, end of 2017, beginning of 2018. What we saw during these workshops was basically that usually there's a vision, or at least a target state, known to the client, but there was a demand to assess the current state and derive the needed actions to develop and use the digital twin in the company. Furthermore, the view was mostly department specific, so only the data related to the department were taken into account, and also regarding the definition of the digital twin, so some topics missed out, which gave away a lot of potential, and this actually made us think about an assessment. And as a kind of guideline, we defined 5 core questions. How does the digital twin influence or change your digital business now and in future? What value do you want to see when introducing a digital twin? And what concepts did you derive to actually support this value you want to get. How do the concepts look like? Then, of course, we were very interested on what actions are actually taken at the moment, and you see necessary to introduce the digital twin, and of course, which skills are required in the company or in the future to develop a digital twin. And based on these 5 core questions, we developed a questionnaire which we took to our to the companies, interested companies, and the idea was to come up with a dashboard, as you see on the right-hand side, to actually display our findings and discuss the recommended course of action with the client to set a startup point and give a transparency in how we estimate the maturity of the client. So basically, we have got 2 results. Teresa, if you would please, thank you. The first outcome of the study was the digital twin readiness assessment, which is conducted in 3 steps. The first step is within the company, we execute an expert interview, which takes approximately 2 hours. We've got a questionnaire, just over 30 questions on the topics goals, concepts, and implementation. And with the assessed data, the step number 2, we take an evaluation of the information we received, the estimation of the maturity, which is then taken into a kind of dashboard, which you'll see on the right-hand side. And with the overall maturity, you see top right, we estimate the maturities on the level strategy and concept, implementation, and understanding. And then with this evaluation, with our key findings, we return to the company for a feedback session. We share openly the findings out of the interview and discuss their view on our results and derive, based on our assessment, the actions which will take them from the current state to the vision of a digital twin. So that's the basic approach. The digital twin readiness assessment is available. So if you are interested in the assessment, please contact us. The second result out of the study is actually the study as such. So based on the results we gathered during the interviews, we aggregated the data, which was mostly done by Teresa and her team at the Fraunhofer Institute, and we from this database we derived the study you see on the right hand side, and within 130 pages of digital twin readiness assessment, you will find a lot more background information on what on the topics we discuss today. But I don't want to keep you from the key findings and the results, and I'd like to hand over to Teresa to introduce the key findings to you. Thank you, Teresa. Please take over.
Yeah, thank you so much, Markus. As Markus said, we have a study which is 130 pages, and today we want to give you like the first insights and the most interesting facts that we thought are interesting. So we start with the overview over the all maturity dimensions and the aggregated analysis over all individual interviews. So the study showed that digital twins are on average still under development, but most of the companies are on the way towards implementation. So on the left-hand side, you can see the overall maturity, which is 51%, which shows that digital twins are still in the conception phase. But there are many different approaches that reflect the diversity of the concept as a whole. So this overall maturity on the left side consists of 3 maturity dimensions. First, the understanding and application. This one is with 66%, the most mature dimension actually. So there's a good understanding of digital twins in general, as well as we saw first experiences from the application of digital twins. The second dimension, the developed concepts, have a medium maturity with 49%, whereby the strategies and target visions are more elaborated than the specific concepts. And third, And third, the implementation of digital twins, which has the lowest level of maturity, especially with regard to data and information models, as well as IT systems. So the idea is that we go into each dimension and we will have a look at the detailed analysis behind each of those. So if we look at the first dimension of understanding an application, we asked the main questions, which were, what is the understanding of digital twins in industry or in the specific companies, and how far is the application of digital twins within the companies in general? And the main interesting facts from our perspective were that with regard to the understanding, 20% of the companies we interviewed did not have a uniform definition of digital twins. But 46% emphasized that the digital shadow is an integral part of digital twins for them. Also, the status of application of digital twins in general within the companies showed that 85% already developed concepts, very specific concept for digital twins, but only 54% also developed a strategy. We also saw that 8% already apply digital twins and 35% at least started with the implementation. So the second dimension, which is the strategy, which is one part of the second maturity dimension, the following questions were pursued. How does the digital twin influence business models? Also one of the core questions. And what added value will be created by digital twins? As well as how do products or systems have to change to be twinned? And the analysis showed that 35% actually intend to change their business model with the digital twin, and specifically 27% of the respondents intend to offer new products with the digital twin or using the digital twin. But 15% also stated that they specifically do not expect any change in their business models. And with regard to the expected benefits, we saw that 31% hope the digital twin will enable them to specifically accelerate internal processes in the company. So we brought some of the most interesting diagrams from our perspective. Here we can see the change in business models clustered in the three groups of OEM, specifically in the mobility industry for road, rail, and air. We also interviewed suppliers in the mobility sector, and we have the third group of machine construction, mechanical, and instrument engineering. So what the study showed us was that in general, digital twins will influence most business models. So they will bring new possibilities for a complete change or a change of focus. And many of those companies assume that digital twins will actually transform their business model significantly, or at least allow for an extension. In detail, most OEMs, which we can see on the left side, most OEMs expect a complete change or an extension to their business model, but 11% also expect no change at all. Suppliers, which are the bright blue, expect a complete conversion or change of the focus, and machine manufacturers assume that the focus will change. Now, if we have a look at the expected benefits, we were quite surprised actually that the primary benefit of digital twins is seen in the acceleration of internal processes, the increase in efficiency as well as cost reduction. So it became clear that the expected benefits from the digital twin mainly focus on internal aspects. So around 1/3 of the companies stated to expect accelerated processes, increased efficiency, and cost reduction each. The detailed analysis of the three main company groups shows that specifically OEMs and machine construction companies focus on the acceleration of processes, and suppliers on the increase in efficiency and the reduction of costs. So if we come to the other part of the strategy and concept dimension, we talk about the concept, which will answer the following questions. For example, which tasks will be executed by digital twins, and how are digital twins applied and which capabilities are necessary, as well as which technologies are necessary for digital twins and their interconnection. So what we saw was that the assessed concepts show a great diversity with regard to system and focus related tasks, as well as product lifecycle phase. Specifically, 73% of the interviewed companies focus on product systems, and 42% apply digital twins within the product development phase. 64%, so more than half of the companies, see data provision as a major task for digital twins. And one challenge lies in the information exchange between virtual and real world. So 63% did not yet define the interconnection between the physical system and the digital twin. First of all, we noticed that most of the concepts could be subdivided in product and production or assembly context. So the assessed concepts mainly focus, as we can see, 73% focus on product systems rather than on the production context. And the stated relevant information for the product context were, for example, the status and condition, the performance, the behavior, components in use, the functions and their usage, as well as geometry aspects. For the production assembly context, the following information were depicted. So we talk about tolerances, control behavior, functions, of course, kinematics, geometry, conditions, material flow, which was very important, as well as the build status and KPIs. Here we can see the depicted system in a more detailed categorization, and the comparison between the industry groups show further differences. So products as a whole are the main focus on OEMs, which is the dark blue color. Suppliers see also digital twins of parts of the product system or processes as relevant. And machine construction companies actually exhibit a wide spectrum of answers and no clear focus. We also took a look at the main tasks of digital twins. The main tasks of digital twins were data provision and to ensure functional safety. But in general, the concept of digital twins allows for a wide range of functions, which is also reflected in the answer spectrum. So in the product context, a digital twin, we can see the comparison between product concept and production and assembly context here. In the product context, a digital twin is supposed to provide data and to ensure in functional safety. In the production context, production planning tasks are additionally relevant. So here we can definitely already see some room for future improvement and more potential, because of course more complex tasks such as prediction and automated planning could be considered, which we already saw in some of the answers, of course. Okay, now let's have a look at the third main maturity dimension, which shows with 39% the lowest level of maturity of all three actually, especially with regard to data and information models as well as IT systems. So here we can see the detailed maturity levels. We actually looked at the processes and organization. We took a look at data and information models as well as IT systems. The main questions asked were which implementation measures are necessary on organizational, process, model and IT system level, as well as which skills are necessary for digital twins. So not only for the development, but also for the operation. And the most interesting facts from our perspective were here that 85% expect a change in the organizational structure of their company for the implementation of digital twins, but 55% also stated that the responsibility for a change of the processes for digital twins are still unclear. Which was also interesting was that 24% use internal IT solutions for the implementation of digital twins at the moment, and 72% of the interviewed companies need new and especially more IT skills to implement and operate digital twins. So in comparison, here we compared the expected change of processes on the left side and change in the organizational structure. The way of change of the business processes is nearly for half of the companies uncertain, but most expect an organizational change. In detail, we can see that processes will partly change for supplier companies in the mobility sector and machine construction companies, whereas OEMs expect a complete change in processes. The necessary organizational changes are not seen as urgent or already executed, and most expect a partly change. The last main core question focused on the necessary skills from the company perspective. So for the implementation of digital twins, companies need to acquire IT and technical skills, and most companies are actually not yet equipped with the necessary skill set. So this shows the relevance of holistic and cross-domain thinking in the context, for example, of systems engineering, data science and IT, as well as technical skill sets. So most companies will still need to attract new personnel or invest in qualification. In comparison of the different groups that we looked at, we can see that OEMs are in need of IT skills and emphasize data analytics and artificial intelligence. So OEM, again, the dark blue color. Most suppliers will need new skills next to the current capabilities, and machine construction companies mainly focus on IT and technical skills, as well as holistic thinking. Okay, so to sum up the short insight in the maturity assessment part of the study, all in all, the maturity analysis shows a great diversity of digital twin concepts and future challenges with regard to the implementation. It was also really nice to see that the maturities, and the more detailed we get into the implementation, the maturity is very high already in the understanding and application, and is lower in the strategy and concept, and implementation, of course, shows the main challenges for now. So, of course, we answered more questions within the study, and we looked further into detail on more of those aspects. And the study is already available for download, so don't hesitate to read through it and contact us with any questions or discussions. And with regard to the maturity assessments, we already looked at all the dimensions, but one additional topic that we researched as an outlook is the future vision and sustainability relevant, which David Salomon will present to you now.
Yep.
David,
Thank you,
please.
Teresa. So in the last minutes, I will have a look together with you on the outlook for the digital twins and also on the conclusion of our studies regarding the digital twin readiness assessment. So what was the main questions we wanted to look at for the future? We asked the participants what the future vision of the digital twin actually is from their perspective, and also how relevant the digital twin could be for the ecological and social sustainability. So to be honest, at this point, the participants, it was quite hard for them to answer this question because they were in their details and their concepts, but actually they managed it and gave us quite clear answers regarding the vision of the digital twins. So what will it look like in 20 years? 35% expect the digital twin to be depict the full system, including the environment, until 2040. 38% hope for some new business model by means of this twin, and only 27% expect the digital twin to be in use much earlier. So that means actually that some of them think the digital twin will already be in use a little bit earlier than in 20 years. 67% see a very high potential that digital twins can also be can also execute sustainable assessment in the future. So this means that it is relevant for sustainability in the future. As you can see on the next slide, the answers regarding what the goals actually can be of the digital twin in the future, in the vision, and also what kind of functionality it could have was very diverse. So that means that we got a bunch of different answers, but not so not a big clarity at this point. What was clear for us that the tasks will become more complex with automation, control, and interconnection. The new digital services will be enabled by the twin, and that the focus will be on internal added values and such as productivity and efficiency and feedback to design. What surprised us a lot is that the two aspects you can see on the left side in the graphic is that the implementation of machine learning, only a little amount of participants see in the future for the digital twin, and also that actually the selling of this digital twin model in addition to the product is nothing that they really see in the future and in the vision of this concept. Now let's have a look on the 5 questions we asked at the beginning. The first question was, how does the digital twin influence the business models? So to summarize it, there are great expectations regarding data-driven services or business models, but however, the strategy for the future focuses rather on improving existing products, processes, or services. What value should be gained by the twin? The value is seen mostly in internal optimization of the products, systems or processes, around the quality optimization, cost reduction, increase in the efficiency. So it surprised us a little that it wasn't that much the focus on this selling the product and actually gaining some more revenue, for example. What do current concepts for the digital twin look like? So this was something really interesting. So the assessed concepts are very diverse and they vary according to the company's vision. Depending on the expected benefits, the digital twin focuses on the product, its subsystem or production. So that means that it was clearly focused on the use case, and regarding which use case the participants had in mind, the concepts varied a lot. What kind of actions are necessary for the digital twin? The introduction of the twins is transforming an enterprise and requires a holistic and overall approach in order to utilize the benefits. So it isn't enough just to make little steps. It needs to be the whole transformation and also a holistic approach. And which skills are required for the digital twin? So new responsibilities will be needed with a strong focus on cross-domain thinking. So it won't be enough to be thinking in the different business lines and different business areas of the company, but it should be cross-domain. And also IT and data analytics skills will be needed. Solid engineering skills will not be enough in the future, nor for developing or operating those digital twins. In the last step, we want you to give some recommendations regarding the digital twin. So make the digital twin a part of your digital strategy and align your processes and organizations. In detail, we have 5 recommendations. The first one is that you should break down the data silos and ensure the availability of relevant data along the product lifecycle to support your use case and value. And here the point is that the relevant data should be available. So you don't need all data, you don't need just some data. You should focus on the actual use case and then the value that should be gained and ensure that this data is available for the concept. To utilize the full potential of the digital twins, take all elements of the digital twin definition into consideration, so that actually the full potential of this twin can only come out if you really focus on the different areas you have in this digital twin. So the digital twin is nothing that exists for itself. So there's always a specific use case and an expected value behind this use case. And that's exactly the thing you should focus on. So you should ask the question, why do I want to implement this digital twin? And what should this digital twin do for me? And what value should it generate for me? And afterwards to step into the concepting and implementation. This changes and also the transparency that you can get with this digital twin can also lead to some fear in the organization. So that's why you should accompany the change through targeted change management. And the last thing we want to say is that establish the necessary support structures, organization, and processes for the implementation of your digital twin. So you actually need the frame so that the concept of this digital twin will be successful and gain the value you expected from it. On the right-hand side, you can see this digital twin readiness assessment, the model with these 3 dimensions we looked into. And here I want to just to repeat it, that you have the opportunity to take part in this assessment, and that you can determine the specific maturity for your company, and you can get recommendations for actions. So feel free to scan those QR codes and just write us an email, and then we can get in touch regarding the readiness assessment for your company. Yes. So if we flip to the next sheet, that was actually the outlook and the conclusion for our studies. So now we will have time to answer your questions and get into a discussion. Feel free to ask. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you very much for this very interesting presentation. Let's have a look into the chat box. I saw that there have already been some questions, and let's just let me take over the screen. Just give me a second. There you go. And now, wait, let me reopen it. There you go. So I'll just read them out. If you have a question, just type them in the chat section on the right-hand side of your screen, and we will go through all questions. And if we don't have time to answer all the questions, we would then answer them at the end. I would give the presenters the chance to give a written statement, and we will put them to the end. We will add them to the presentation for download on our websites. Okay, so the first question already at the beginning of your presentation. With all the hype about digital twin and digital thread, how does one differentiate each other? Are there industry definition of each?
Mm-hmm. Teresa, I think regarding definition, do you want to take the question?
Yes, I can do that, of course. From a research perspective, there's always a very clear definition, which actually also depends on the researcher, of course. But we saw that like the definitions within, or the understanding within the companies, differ very strongly. If you look at the study, which is in German, sadly, so don't hesitate to ask us if you need any English explanation of those. So the digital twin is more than just a digital thread. So from our perspective, the digital thread is just the, let's say, transparency, or the tracing the life of a product, for example, or a system, where the digital twin has more potential than that. So it's a combination of the as planned status, so everything that it comes from the planning phase, for example, product development, can also be the production planning. But the definition of how should the system or the product be like in the future. And this will be combined or is interlinked with current data, might be real-time data, can be information from the production phase or the usage phase, as well as the end-of-life phase. And this combination, like the analysis between the how it's supposed to be and how it actually is the biggest potential of the digital twin. And the question, I think the second question was, are there industry definitions of each? I guess it depends on the industry that you look at, definitely. So we saw, I mean, the definition is one thing, and sometimes it's just a wording, but I think the understanding is very important, as well as that in one company or the scope that you're working in, you have the same understanding. Like, what is the important definition for you?
Right. But if I may comment this, Teresa, you see, it's Gregory Summers. Unfortunately, the study is not available in English, but if you download the page, there's a specific chapter on definition. This might give you an insight in what we see as a definition, basically from the digital master to the digital shadow and digital control circles. So it does give a specific insight in what we see as definition, and this is actually cross-industry. So I hope the question is answered so far.
Okay, yes, I guess so. Thank you.
The next one is easy.
how can we get access to the publication of this study?
Yeah. Please scan the QR codes or go into Google and search for the Digital Twin Readiness Assessment. You will find out the landing pages of either Fraunhofer or MSG, and there's the download area to receive this free copy of the study.
Okay, here is also a short discussion on the question of Gregory. I will just go past that one and pick up the next question. Is data governance and data standardization not vital to implement a holistic digital twin ecosystem?
Indeed. If I may take this question, Teresa?
Yeah, go ahead.
Actually, in preparation of this seminar, I read an article mid of this week regarding the establishment of Industrial Digital Twin Association. And this association is actually aiming to standardize the digital twin exchange standard in order to have a cross-corporation, cross-company ability to connect the digital twin. So you're absolutely right. Data governance and data standardization is vital to actually implement the digital twin even more. If you want to collect data across the life cycle, you can't just focus on your own company. Your clients have to contribute to your life cycle data as well. So it's a lot more cross company than we would imagine. So this is definitely a vital part of the digital twin definition.
Okay, thank you. Then the next question, with regard to the assessment, what regions, Europe, North America, Asia, were covered? And what percentage of companies were in the automotive and industrial automation segments?
Yeah, if you want, I can take this one. Oh, okay, sorry, David, do you have the study open?
I will take the first part. So which regions we focused on. So it was a DACH region, which means that the companies came from Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. Yeah. And the percentage of the companies were the automotive and industrial segments. Teresa, I think I will give this one to you.
Yeah, definitely. I also posted the link in the chat as well. So we interviewed, actually, I think from the few groups that we looked at. So the OEMs were 35% of the companies that we interviewed. The suppliers, 42%. So most of them are actually suppliers in the mobility sector. And 23% were machinery and instrumentation engineering companies. But it would be very interesting actually to go further than the scope of the DACH region and to look at the global situation of that. So if anyone is interested, contact us.
Please, yes. We wanted to keep complexity quite simple. That's why we've concentrated on the German language area.
Okay, thank you. Then let's catch up with the next question. Have you any roadmap examples to illustrate successful implementation?
A tricky one.
The thing is, the individual interviews that we did were on an anonymous basis. So the study is aggregated and anonymous. So the companies that we assessed that already implement digital twins are only partly public, let's say. We have some companies that have citations within the study, but most of them we cannot just use their examples. But definitely, if you want to discuss, we can show you the roadmap that we see on a general level, like how do you come from the first ideas and the concept and the target vision to the operation and the implementation. But we can definitely do this maybe in a separate meeting if you're interested.
Great, good advice. So the next one, in terms of recommendations, does the assessment cover workflow, process changes and tools, CAE tools, for example?
Do you want to take the questions, Teresa? Or?
Yeah, I can. I mean, I'm not 100% sure. So if you are still in the chat, you can definitely redefine, because I'm not sure if you're asking if that assessment includes specific recommendations for specific systems, or if the so if you're looking for, let's say, technology assessment. The good thing is, for one part, like from Fraunhofer perspective, we are independent from specific system vendors. So we will not give recommendations for specific systems, but definitely the part on what you're asking for, which processes need to change, which workflow implication does it have, and which tools do you need in general for your specific target vision concept is part of the assessment.
Okay, let's just check if we'll see. I'll keep in focus if there is a further explanation on this. But in the meantime, let's take the next question from Gray. IBM, thank you for an interesting study about the topic of driving digital twin, one use case at a time. Any remarks about how to isolate sufficient new value to fund enough of the new digital twin infrastructure, compared with typical existing incremental projects that are very cost conscious in today's environment?
So I'm not sure if I quite understand the question correctly, but I will try to answer it as far as I understood it. So actually the steps are quite clear how to implement it and also how to gain value. So our recommendation at this point is that you focus on the use case you want to have a look at for the first step, and that you define the relevant data for this concept. And in this first step, we would advise that you could start, for example, with a proof of concept in this way, that you just want to make sure if the concept of the digital twin works. And if it works, then we would conduct a roadmap of it so that you can implement it in a typical agile way in the organization. But in these steps, you should really focus on this change aspect. We already mentioned that you do the change management right for the process for the project, and also focus on the organizational and on the process changes that come with the implementation of these twins.
David, if I may compliment, Gray, maybe one recommendation would be to take it from department level to company level, because actually on overall company level, you have got more business cases to fund your project as such. So it's not always the funds you get out of it, but if you have got direct, for example, data from your end customer, which can improve your products and get them closer to the demand of the customer, this will be a benefit which is not kind of paying off in dollars at the end of the day, but helps the company overall. But maybe take it to an enterprise level to fund this.
Okay, thank you. So the next one from Roshan. Thank you for the great study. How is your assessment of the state of general digitalization throughout the mechatronics industry?
Okay, maybe I'll take this question. So I guess what I hear is not only the digital twins, but the digitalization status. And I think that's one of the main things that we found, is that some of the companies started from very top down with the idea of implementing digital twins, and very quickly came to notice that they have to start with the basis, like digitalization of development processes, but also production planning process or production processes. And where it usually stops is like from the part where the product, for example, leaves the company. So how do we digitalize service processes or even end-of-life processes? And especially you asked me for the produzierenden Unternehmen. So we were only in the mechatronic or mechatronic industry. I'm not sure, maybe if we talk about the machine construction companies, the ones that we interviewed were actually quite far with regard to the equipment of their machinery, for example. So IoT technologies, of course, and sensor technologies helped to already provide a big basis for the digital shadow data, meaning the status of the machinery in use, the status or behavior, for example, machinery in use, which also confirms under the Industry 4.0 context, I guess. Which was a challenge for the producing companies, is actually the combination or the interconnection between the data models from the development phase. So rather on for example, simulation models or models geometry models and to connect those with the real-time data that is collected within, for example, production or usage phase. What we saw as well is that the implementations or the already started implementations usually focus on a very isolated topic or challenge. That's what we also said with the internal processes or cost reduction, is that we're talking a lot about MVPs or specific solutions for a specific problem. And as soon as you want to operate those digital twins, you will have to start thinking about the interconnection, like the ecosystem. I think some of the participants just said, like, how do we connect those digital twins and how do we provide an infrastructure within our company to develop and operate digital twins, while at the same time we have very specific challenges and such diverse concepts. I hope this answers your question. If not, please contact us and we can discuss further.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So the next one from Phil. We already have data exchange standards sponsored and produced by the ASD. Shouldn't we use existing standards rather than generate new ones?
The answer is actually yes. Yeah, use them as far as you can. If they've got limitations, they have to be enhanced or new standards created, but always on the use case. You need definitely a use case to define the requirements regarding the standards.
Also, to extend real quick, what was also very interesting that some of the participants said how important open source development, like open source standards, are for them. So not only going on company specific solutions, but how can we provide a secure data exchange infrastructure, maybe within an industry, which can also be company, country, cross-country data and information exchange. So not only standards, but also open source hardware and software development and open source tools and hardware.
That's a good point. If I may comment this, it was quite curious that none of the companies actually wanted to have a cross-company connection between the digital twins. So it was always down to the very company. So this interlinking of digital twins across enterprise boundaries was something which is still missing, as Teresa said, is definitely depending on open standards and the chance to integrate in a big platform to get the most benefit out of the digital twin.
Yes, and maybe also just one remark, as I've already mentioned it in the vision part, that actually what really surprised us is the selling of this digital twin model. There's nothing that the companies really see in the future, but actually that's something we've also expected it. And one of the enablers for this would be the standardization and also to go over the borders of the companies.
Okay. So let's take the next question. A number of companies have applied the concept of a data lake combined with extract transformation load, ETL tools to help handle data standardization. This enables collection of data in its raw format and continual refinement of that data to standardize, make use of it at a later time.
I think that might be
it's
also
more a
just
statement, right?
I think this could be an answer also to the questions regarding the standardization.
Yeah.
But it's still a very interesting remark because, of course, most of the companies are in front of the decision. Do we just focus on the specific use case and the questions that we already know that the digital twin should answer? And do we just start a very specific data collection now? So we already know the data structure, we know the questions that the digital twin should answer. Or do we also prepare for future tasks for the digital twin that we don't even know yet about because they might be in another domain, they might be in another task, and they might be in 1 or 2 years. So of course, the data lake, or let's say the collection of a very huge amount of raw data without contextualization or without metadata context helps you to prepare for such unknown later questions. But still, you have to kind of find a balance in between, like just a lot of data collection and a very specific restricted data collection. And also have to think about this in between, like the metadata contextualization that you will need for it to be usable. But it's a good remark, yeah.
Okay, and another question. On one of the slides, implementation of ML had a low rating number. What are your thoughts on this? With a lot of data, big data, and undefined or non-linear systems of use of ML seems relevant, required.
Right. If I might take this one, please. Yes, you're absolutely right. To gain added value and insight, you need to apply business intelligence or machine learning on the data you gather with the digital twin. And this is definitely a part which needs to be emphasized and kind of fostered, definitely. So that's what we are actually also doing, because the gathering of large amount of data through a digital twin is only valuable if you derive most insight you can out of the data. Then there's the second part of the question.
So maybe if I can comment on the first part real quick, because of course, like what are our thoughts on this? I mean, we conducted a study and we asked a lot of participants, and we didn't specifically ask in this context, is ML or artificial intelligence for you relevant or not? And the other 96% said, no, it's not relevant at all, but it was only mentioned specifically by 4%. So meaning that we can only have this statement, like from a research perspective, we can only have this statement, doesn't mean that it is not implied for the other participants for more complex tasks, because we also saw that like in the future, the companies are focusing on more complex tasks, automated decision support and so on, which might imply the use of more intelligent analytic skills. Doesn't have to be AI, but yeah.
Okay. And then I think we only have two statements. Cross-company data exchange is key to reducing through life support costs. And then I think matching this, but the digital twin model can be seen as the core IP of the company, better selling services.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Agreed.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Definitely. Thank you for those remarks as well.
So
there aren't any further questions. So again, from my side, thank you very much for this interesting presentation. We will put this webinar, web seminar online for you, ready to download, as well as the slides. Thank you, goodbye, have a good afternoon, and talk to you the next time.
thanks, Nora.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.